Hey everybody, and welcome to another Konoha Reviews. Today we take a look at the old school classic Star Wars Battlefront II, which was requested by one of you in the comments. Battlefront 2 on my channel, and with my history of course, has a huge focus on mods. And with those mods, it might as well be considered as one of the best, if not the best Star Wars game out there. But I wanted to do the review fair, and so I shall only look at what the game has to offer in its vanilla state. That means that the single player campaign, Galactic Conquest, and of course the multiplayer will be the focus here. Back when the first Battlefront came out, a lot of people, including myself, were very excited to play a Star Wars game that was inspired by the Battlefield formula. This meant that you would fight for control points on large maps with both infantry, land vehicles, and fighters in the air. The first entry already offered great variety in the form of both the Galactic Civil War era and also the Clone Wars. But this game was released in 2004, which was before Star Wars Revenge of the Sith was released in theaters. With the arrival of Episode 3 the next year, Pandemic released the follow-up Battlefront 2 a mere year later. Though nowadays it is pretty much agreed by many that the second part is the better and definitive version of the two, back when it was released, the game actually raised some eyebrows, since it came out so quickly after part 1, ran on the same engine, and even had some maps that looked quite similar. One also has to realize that this was before the 360 and PS3 era, where game franchises on a yearly basis really began to take hold, so it was very weird for some to have a part 2 released so shortly after. Some of the most notable changes in Battlefront 2 compared to the first were the addition of the Episode 3 era and battles, hero units including the ability to play as a Jedi or Sith, and space battles. I remember though at the time being a bit disappointed that they released this on the PS2 and regular Xbox, as the next generation of consoles had already been unveiled, and I was afraid that the space battles would be a bit underwhelming with the console's limitations at the time. And in all honesty, the vanilla space battles still do not evoke those large-scale space conflicts like the Battle of Endor or Battle above Coruscant feeling. Though Battlefront 1 did have a campaign mode, it was a mere string of battles that were introduced with a few seconds of footage from the actual movies. It was okay for the time, since games like Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, etc. did that too, but in this day and age, that would definitely not fly. In Battlefront 2's campaign, you follow the story of the 501st as the Clone Wars rages on, leading up to Order 66, and then even seeing the transition of the Clone Troopers into Stormtroopers. Though there are cutscenes, they are all done in-game, and they are not very cinematic at all, to be honest. Animations look stiff, and most of the story is told through narration, which is done by the same actor who played Jango and therefore also the clones in the actual movies, which is a nice touch. The cool thing about the campaign is that you get objectives that are clearly marked and do not only revolve around capturing command points. Sometimes you need to hold a sector for a certain given time, hunt down indigenous creatures, or destroy certain parts of buildings or facilities. The fact that you have the freedom to tackle these objectives however you like is very cool, though the maps and flow are a bit more scripted, which means you don't always have access to all units or vehicles that the map offers in multiplayer. The campaign does a good job of teaching you the mechanics, making you familiar with the maps, and introducing new playstyles like the space battles. Overall, the campaign is okay, but it definitely is nothing to write home about. Though it is a bit better than the campaign in Battlefront 1, the overall campaign lacks presentation and a feeling of cohesion. Then we go to the awesome game mode Galactic Conquest, which is such a shame that this has never been included in any of the Battlefronts that came after this by EA, but those games are a story better told separately. Galactic Conquest feels like a mixture of turn-based strategy as we have it in the game Star Wars Empire at War and the regular Battlefront 2 battles with a twist. You have different types of scenarios you can choose from, and it basically puts two opposite factions on a giant galactic map where both factions control a set amount of planets. Each planet produces credits or other bonuses which can be used to buy upgrades for the next battle or unlock certain units to be used during that battle. The goal is to get dominance over the galaxy by controlling most planets as you take turns. Whenever two fleets meet head-on at a certain planet, the gameplay shifts to the battles. The cool thing here is that just like in Empire at War, the first battle will be in space, as the attackers will try to break through the defending fleet. If they succeed, the next battle will be fought on the ground to decide who will be, or remain, the ruler of that location. The earlier mentioned bonuses and unlocked units can bring some cool elements of strategy with it. This game mode basically puts you at the hands of a galactic war and conflict, and you decide on the order of things as you create a story and narrative of your own. A very cool game mode indeed, and such a shame that we have not seen more like this. Lastly, of course, we will take a look at the multiplayer, and this is of course where Battlefront II has always shined. There's so much to get here for your money, just with the vanilla game alone. Nowadays, it is always common for shooters to have a very shallow number of maps for their vanilla game, but that wasn't always the case. Battlefront 2 gives you an awesome roster of maps that you and your friends can enjoy, from giant maps like Geonosis, Hoth, and Kashyyyk, to Tatooine, Mygeeto, Volusia, Camino, Coruscant, Naboo, and so much more. There's something here for everyone to enjoy, whether it's more corridor-based levels like Mustafar or the Death Star, or sprawling battlefields that give you that all-out war feeling like Geonosis. A few maps, like the earlier mentioned Geonosis or Hoth, even support a game mode on PC called Excel, which put even more units in than the regular numbers in Conquest to really bring giant battles to life on your screen. There's enough going on to where you can enjoy yourselves against bots as well, and the game also makes sure that it always feels crowded by putting in bots for missing players on either team. I have not played the PlayStation or Xbox game, but I did own the original Battlefront on Xbox, and there it had split screen, which I assume that Battlefront 2 did so as well, and so that is a big plus point for if you own the console version. All in all, Star Wars Battlefront 2 is an awesome game, and one that has stood the test of time, which is quite impressive for a game that will have its 15th anniversary next year. It's not the perfect Star Wars game though, and not my particular favorite. That is Star Wars Rogue Squadron 2. But I can say that Battlefront 2 definitely is in my top 5 of best games ever, and it could top that list if just some more effort had gone into the single player campaign and the actual development, instead of hastily releasing it a year later on the same engine with levels that look very similar to previous entry. In the end, I am happy to give this game an 8.2, and should also mention that the verdict would skyrocket higher if one were to take all of the modding maps into account, of which some are even more polished and epic than the vanilla maps. It is such a shame that a few years later EA got the right to all Star Wars games, as there have been so many Star Wars games in the past, and though, yes, the majority were mediocre to sometimes bad games, there were gems spread throughout. And now, it just seems like we only get one Star Wars game every 2 to 3 years, which is just not enough. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.